Hello everybody and welcome back to Out of Body's 31 Days of October. Today I'm going to do kind of a more casual video with you guys. I'm going to talk about my visit to one of the Victorian Village haunted homes. I did a video previously on this house. It's called the Woodruff-Fontaine house, and I actually ended up touring it with my mom and brother. And I just want to talk about some of the things that I felt there and experienced. So if you're interested in hearing about that, then keep watching. So my mom, brother, and I went to tour the home about a week or so ago. And they do just general tours there where you can just kind of walk around, or you can walk around with a guide. They actually do haunted tours there as well. I did not do that because that costs a little bit more. I will do that eventually, but as it is, it costs, I think, about $15 to get in during the day, and I think at night it's like $25. So I'll do that eventually. So we went and looked at it during the day, and I'm such a bad YouTuber, I didn't even take pictures. I took one picture, which I'll stick over here, of the front of the house. I was kind of in a hurry that day. I had an appointment, and so we walked through it kind of quickly, and I didn't really get a chance to take many pictures, and you know, I'm a bad YouTuber. So I didn't vlog it or anything, but partially because I do plan to come back at night and do that sometime and do a video on that. So as I said in the previous video about this home, it does have 3 floors and a basement, so that's like 4 levels altogether. And it does have a tower, and I went in all of those areas. So upon entering the home, I could definitely feel that there was some energy there, but I couldn't really place what or who it was at first. The guide, he kind of let us do our own thing, but he was really great. He did actually, they weren't very busy that day, so he did kind of come back around to us and basically give us a guided tour, even though we didn't, you know, ask for that. So they kind of start you out in the entryway of the home and kind of just give you information about the house in general, which I've already pretty much talked about in the other video. So as far as what I felt at that point, when we were kind of in the entryway, I could feel a lot of energy, and it was just kind of all mixed up in my mind. If you don't already know this, I am very sensitive to spirits and ghosts and energies and whatever you want to call it. Basically, the way it feels for me is it feels kind of like a stuffy, almost heavy kind of feeling, and not because there's no, like, there wasn't any air conditioning in there. It's not because of that. It's different. It's more of just kind of a, almost like a pressure, you know, coming on to me. Like, I can just feel like just energy pressure around me. And then if I feel a particular spirit, I can usually feel them either on my right or on my left or behind me or something, and it's kind of a warm buzzing kind of feeling, which makes sense because energy is vibration, you know, so if there's a being of light and love, you know, they will vibrate at a high rate, and so it'll kind of feel like a warm buzzing sensation over to my right or to my left. So I didn't really feel much of that yet at this point. I was just in the front area, but I did feel kind of just that heaviness that something's here, or a lot of somethings are here. Now supposedly, like I said in my video, the ghost of Molly Woodruff is said to haunt kind of the ground floor and the second floor. Now, I didn't really sense her very much, honestly, at all on the ground floor. Now, with that being said, our tour guide did say, you know, even though he said he's not like a sensitive or a medium, he you know, he can kind of feel good and bad vibes, and he said that the feeling of the home during the day is completely different than the way it feels at night. Because he said he's been in that home by himself at night before and during the day. And he said it feels different both times. It's just a different atmosphere at night. So that's very interesting. It makes me really excited to go there at night and see what I feel, you know? Because if like the average person says something like that, then somebody like me that's already like attracts things like that, like I would be interested to see what I experience at night. So after he kind of takes us through the entryway, he then just kind of lets us loose to walk around. The first room I go to is a room that supposedly was used as a seance room. Now I don't know if that's exact, you know, per the history of the home, what they used that room for, but that's how they had it set up in there, as a seance room. And that's what he said, you know, that during this time, like in the Victorian era, people were a lot more into the spiritual, and they would try to do seances to reach their loved ones. So apparently that was a lot more common back then. So that was a little bit eerie. I wish I had taken a picture of that. But yeah, they had just kind of this table set up with candles and things, and they actually had mannequins set up that were dressed in mourning clothes. And if you don't know what that is, it's just like all black dresses from back in the Victorian era. Back then, you know, people would wear all black after they lost a loved one, especially women. If they lost a husband, they would wear all black, I think for at least a year. Some women would wear black the rest of their lives. I do know that. But bunny trail. Anyway, so when we were on the ground floor, just kind of walking around, I ended up, when we were kind of looking into different rooms, I kept having this name pop in my head. Now, I was already familiar with this name because I'd read the history about the home, but when that happens and I'm not like actively thinking of this person, it just keeps popping in my mind and I can kind of feel an energy presence. That's how I know that that spirit is there and that they're trying to communicate with me, possibly, or they want me to know that they're there. Sometimes I'll hear my own name being called. I've heard that a lot. Sometimes it's like literally like out loud, like I can hear it with my naked ear, and then other times it's kind of with an internal hearing. So that's how my clairaudient abilities work. Typically when people have clairaudience, they just hear with internal hearing. For me, it's a little bit of both, I guess. Mostly internal, but like I said, a lot of times I've heard my name being called and I know that nobody around me called my name. So when we were kind of walking around on the first floor, I kept hearing Woodruff-Fontaine in my internal hearing. Like it just kept popping up, Woodruff-Fontaine, Woodruff-Fontaine. Like I kept sensing this presence and I was listening to it. You know, I kind of just pause and listen and take it in and like, okay, what is this? And then that name kept coming up in my mind. Woodruff-Fontaine. So I was like, okay, you know, at least from what I believe, I think that he was present there on the first floor. Supposedly he really loved the home. He lived there till he died. And also on the first floor, when we got to the dining room, as soon as I walked into the dining room, there was a picture of, which I already recognized because I looked up pictures and history on this home. It was a picture of Woodruff-Fontaine, and supposedly he is the kind of negative entity in the home. Now, when I saw his picture, I felt, and this is weird, you know, because of what I've read, and people mostly have a negative experience with him. When I saw his picture, I immediately felt his presence. Like I knew it was him. I didn't even have to like hear his name. Like sometimes when a spirit comes forward very strongly, I just know who it is. I can't explain that. That's kind of a claircognizance, I guess, kind of an all-knowing. But it's just there. I just know who they are. So as soon as I saw his picture, his presence just came forward for me, and I just knew he was there. And I was like, oh, okay, you know, and I kind of, in my head, kind of let him know, like, I'm not here to exploit you. I'm here to listen to you. I'm here to learn about this house, and I come in peace, you know, and all that. And I felt nothing but good vibrations from him. Not extremely good, like extremely, like, you know, enthralling love or anything, but just good, just positive, you know. It just felt like almost felt like he was interested in me and why I was there. So immediately I thought that was pretty interesting because, like I said, most people that have experienced something negative claimed it to be the spirit of Woodruff-Fontaine. But with my abilities, I was able to sense him right away as soon as he came forward. And I felt nothing but good, so I don't know. Although there was the case of one man, I know I talked about in my last video on this home, that he had a positive experience too. So on the third floor, which could have been Elliot, could have been somebody else, who knows. But, sometimes I think it depends on the person, you know. Spirits, I mean, they can read your intention. They can read you and your energy, typically. So, I mean, especially if you're really scared, sometimes they'll kind of play on that, you know, if they want to. But, or they just won't come forward at all because they don't want to scare you. So it just depends. Now the second floor, like I said earlier, supposedly is haunted by the spirit of Molly Woodruff because her room is on that floor. Now when we got to that floor, I expected to feel what others have said, you know, when they're on that floor around her room, they feel very warm and inviting, and they feel like there's a very loving and warm presence there. It's not that I didn't feel that necessarily, but it didn't stick out to me when I was up there because I know what that feels like. As soon as I got up to the second floor, and at first I thought it was because I'm just really out of shape and I had to climb stairs, you know, to get to that second floor, but it didn't go away. My heart was just pounding the entire time we were on that second floor. Now granted, like I said, I'm out of shape. I just climbed stairs and I was kind of a little stressed, just a little bit, because I was, you know, wanting to make sure that I would get home in time for my appointment, which the appointment was to get home and do the interview with Panic D Videos, which was really nice of them to have me on their channel, and I wanted to get home in time to do that. I didn't want to make them wait. But while I was on that second floor, like I said, my heart was just pounding really, really fast. Now I have kind of a high heart rate in general, just as a resting heart rate, but not so bad that it's literally like all I can hear in my ears is my heartbeat. Like that's how bad it was. It was almost like my body was going into panic mode. I don't know what was going on. I don't normally have that happen. I really don't, unless I'm really, really scared, which I didn't feel scared. I was actually very relaxed, you know, as far as, you know, the way I felt. I wasn't afraid of anything at that moment. My heart was just beating. I was starting to feel a little bit sweaty, like almost like a cold sweat. Not, I mean, like I said, there wasn't any air conditioning in there, and on that day it was pretty warm in Memphis, so it was a little warm in there, but I didn't really feel hot. I just was sweating and my heart was racing. So it's like something I've almost never experienced before. So it's almost like my body was going into this panic mode and I didn't know why. Now when we got to the second floor, he walked us by Mrs. Fontaine's room. I'm blanking on her name right now, but she was the wife of Nolan Fontaine. And when I walked, he showed us her room at first, and when I walked by that room, I just got this very, like my heart was already doing what it was doing, and I was sweating and stuff, but I was just, all of a sudden got this kind of, I don't want to say dark, but just kind of a not so good vibe from that room. I just felt like, okay, there's either something in there that doesn't want us in there, or I don't know, something, I'm getting a weird vibe about that room. And what was funny about that, I guess in a way, is that the tour guide caught up with us and started telling us about the second floor, and then he actually mentioned that room, Mrs. Fontaine's room, and he said, you know, that room honestly gives me kind of the heebie-jeebies, you know, like I don't know why, I just don't like that room. I was like, it's funny you said that, because that is the first thing I noticed when we got up here, other than my heart rate, was that room, I don't want to go in it. Like it feels weird to me. Like I don't normally get those kind of vibes either. So I knew that that was something significant. So then we go into Molly's room, and of course, it does feel nice in there. It doesn't feel heavy or negative at all. It does feel nice in there. My heart calmed down a little bit when I was in there. I felt like I could feel her presence. I felt like there was a presence there that was almost like trying to calm me down, you know, because I was very like panicky on the inside. I did feel a calm presence in there, but it wasn't really strong though. It was very, very faint. It wasn't real strong. Almost like she didn't want to be noticed. So then once we left Molly's room, we ended up going upstairs, and I was pretty anxious to go upstairs because I just kept getting that panicky feeling on the second floor, and I'm still not sure why. I don't know if that was Mrs. Fontaine or if there's just a general negative vibe that was there that day. I don't know. So even though the third floor in the book and on websites is supposedly where there is a negative entity, I was actually anxious to get up to the third floor because somehow I knew that I would feel better. I hoped I would feel better when I got to that third floor, and I did. As soon as I got up there, and that was another, you know, flight of stairs, when I got up there, my heart started calming down. So that's how I know that there was something up with that second floor. At least on this particular day there was. So yeah, once we got to the third floor, I did feel a lot better. My heart rate started to slow a little bit. I kind of stopped sweating. It felt better up there, which logically, that doesn't make a lot of sense as far as like physically, because you would think in a house that's that old, it doesn't have air conditioning, once you get into higher levels of the house, like the upper floors, it should get hotter. You know, like I should have felt sweatier and, you know, all of that, but I didn't. I actually felt a lot cooler, and my heart rate went way down when we got to the third floor. So once we got up there, the guide kind of caught up with us again and told us about Woodruff-Fontaine, like I mentioned earlier, told us about his room, about how he died, and again, I did feel Elliot's presence. It popped up again, just automatically. I knew he was there. We were standing outside of his room, and the tour guide was talking about how Elliot died and that they're not really sure which room he died in, if he died in his bedroom or the room next to it, which the room next to it now I think is used for storage. But when he was talking about how they're not really sure, he might have died in this room, he might not have, nobody really knows, but supposedly he haunts this floor. And immediately I got, you know, just in my head, you know, I just got like repeatedly, it's not like a one-time message. Usually when I get a message from a spirit, it repeats, like on a broken record almost. And that's how I know it's actually coming from a spirit and not just a thought in my head, because I don't think that way. I don't think words over and over again like that. So when that happens, I know that somebody's trying to tell me something. And so I heard over and over again, it was this room, it was this room, right here, this room, like over and over again. The room that I was standing in front of was his bedroom. So I think that he must have died in his room, because I could feel him kind of on my right side, and the bedroom was like right here in front of me, and I could feel him like right here, and I kept hearing him say this room right here, it was in here, I died in here. So that was really interesting. I thought that he was actually like trying to tell me like what happened. So, you know, I felt like I should say it on here, you know, so people know. So that was about all that I felt on the third floor. At that point I was kind of paying more attention to the time and trying to make sure I wasn't running late for the interview. On that floor there was a door up to the tower, which was really cool. I actually did go up there all the way up to the top, and that was pretty amazing. My legs were sore for a couple of days after that though, because there's so many stairs to get up to that tower, but that was really cool. I wish I had taken pictures again, but I'll do that again at some point. I was just in a hurry and just wasn't even thinking about taking pictures. So yeah, that's pretty much all I felt there. We did go into the basement, and you would think that there would be activity in the basement, but I had read about this too prior to going there, that there really hasn't been a lot of activity since in the basement of that house, and I didn't feel anything in particular when I was there. So that's about all that I experienced there. So yeah, that is the end of this video. I appreciate you guys watching. Let me know down below and give this video a like if you'd like me to go back there at night. I probably will anyway, but I would really like to know how many of you would be interested in seeing something like that. As far as I know, they actually do group paranormal investigations there, where you can bring your own equipment, even cameras, and film the whole thing. So it's like the perfect opportunity for me. Yeah, so let me know if you'd like to see that. And I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.